So there is another aspect to existentialism is a humanism that is very important to Sartre and that becomes very important to us. And that is the idea of kind of concrete reality. What is what is. It's kind of, that phrase, oh, it is what it is. According to existentialists, exactly. There is, for Sartre, a very important aspect of being aware of what is here, what is now, what is real, and also being aware of what is not real. He mentions on a couple of occasions this idea that for an existentialist, regret is kind of pointless, I suppose, in a way, because you are only what you have done. In the same way that existence precedes essence, essence is what existence has become. If we paint a picture, or write a song, or write a poem, or do a paper of some sort, the paper that is the paper that is. Could it have been something else? Possibly. But there is no reason to dwell on it because it is what it is. This can be used for both the purposes of sort of understanding how despair works, how anxiety works, but also as a way of not being able to make excuses. For Sartre, if somebody is a cowardly person, right? If they have shied away from doing something brave, they cannot complain about the fact that they could have been braver. They weren't, and so they are not. If an artist dies and people lament the fact that all these artworks that could have been, Sartre says that's pointless. What is what is. We cannot dwell on potential, according to Sartre. This is one of the aspects of existentialism that often is not something that a lot of people like. For example, we all, I think, understand that idea that if somebody, passes away earlier than we think that they should have passed away, right? They didn't live to a ripe old age, etc. They were felled by illness or an accident of some sort, that we do lament the potential that they had. And that this is a very real emotion and that we shouldn't not have it. Sartre seems to be somewhat callous when he talks about life in this way, but for an existentialist, this is the way that things must be. Whatever actions you have done, they are your actions. They are the actions that you have done, and you can't think about actions that you might have done because you didn't do them. And so judgment is possible in and of itself because it evaluates what is real and what is here and what is now. And so the idea really comes back to you must choose, and whatever you choose, you must be satisfied with. You must accept that this is the thing that you have chosen. This is one of the reasons why Sartre says it's very optimistic, because it does not dwell on potential, it doesn't dwell on regret, it doesn't dwell on looking for what could be. It only does deal with what is. Now, can we plan? Absolutely we can. But plans are plans. Plans are not reality until we put them into motion. In a way, this is the same thing that Kierkegaard kind of talks about when he talks about this idea of choosing and then committing and acting on that choice. We can make plans. We can decide that we want to do something, but until we have done it, it is not done. It is the same as possibly, if we think of it in the idea of politics, right? Of any politician that says, here's what I'm going to do, here's what the plan is, here's what's going to happen. Many of us may be aware at this point in time, looking at politics, that rarely do a lot of those campaign promises come to fruition. They are potential. The reality is different. For Sartre, at the same time that the reality might be different, the reality is also what it is. If we attempt to do something and fail, then that's exactly what has happened. We can lament the fact that something didn't go the way we wanted it to, but that is simply the way things happened. Are we free to go back and try again? Absolutely. Sartre says nothing about the decisions that we are making being the only ones that we can make. We can make any other decision. We can decide to try again, or we can decide to say, this is no longer something I wish to pursue, or this is no longer something that is possible to pursue. Sartre would look at us. He would look at me, for example, when I tore my ACL a couple of years ago. In my right knee, I was in the middle of training for a marathon. And the thing that I said to myself as soon as I tore my ACL is, I still wanted to get back to a place where I could run the marathon again. This was the act, the choice, the committing to wanting to do this. But what was involved in that? Well, it was the work that led up to my recovery. It was the work that led up to figuring out how to fix things, how to retrain, how to get back out there, how to make the decision to actually do it again. All of the planning and all of the talk of wanting to do something made no difference according to the existential point of view. That was simply the choosing, the striving, but the actual act is the one that we are judged upon. This can get really complicated, though, right? When we talk about this piece, existentialism as humanism, we can come up with a lot of things that we have experienced in our lives that maybe we don't completely understand that fit with this. For example, if we listen to, for example, people who have been caught in the middle of planning a crime, there is no question that if the evidence is there that somebody was going to plan something, that we should not arrest somebody because they haven't done it, right? If somebody has been planning to blow up a building or to shoot somebody or to commit a crime and they're caught and there is evidence there, they will generally go to jail. Sartre would probably not say, well, we can't judge because somebody hasn't acted. But, existentialism kind of does say that their crime was not committed. The thing didn't happen. So the action doesn't exactly exist. It is an unfinished painting. It is an unrealized book. But at the same time, for us, we look at this and say concretely, this is something somebody was planning to do, and we must stop them from doing it, right? And this is where I think sometimes we look at things where Sartre would clearly, I think, agree with us. He would agree that, if people had known about the Holocaust back in the before it happened back in the time that Sartre was alive, that stepping in and stopping that before it ever started would have been preferable, right? We wouldn't have just looked at this and said, oh, the plan is to kill millions of Jews, but it hasn't been put into effect yet, so why worry about it? Of course he would say, we need to do something to stop this, that we can judge based on the potential for something to happen, for somebody to act on something like that, right? That this is a terrible thing. And so existentialism does not hold for us all the answers, but it does hold for us keys that will help us as we read the literature that we're going to be using existentialism to sort of evaluate. When we look at the plague, we're going to look at the choices that people may have to make. We can evaluate their thought processes going into it and how we feel about their actions beforehand. And then we can see what they do, what the potential turns into, what is the reality of Rieu and his reaction to the plague. What is our reaction to Rambert and his decision to want to leave, and then what he does when he is afforded these possibilities, when he is afforded the right to do so? Does he act upon it? What do we think of him after this? Existentialism provides us with a means to evaluate. Are all these characters existentialists? Well, we're going to talk about that in another video. we may not really judge them all as existentialists, but we can judge their actions from the point of view of, here is what an existentialist would think, and that is our role as we move forward. So, in our next video, we'll wrap up sort of the existentialism and humanism, and we will move forward.